In 1990, a woman named Jennifer Thompson picked a man out of a police lineup and said she was absolutely certain she had looked her attacker in the face. She had memorized every detail. She was 100% sure. Ronald Cotton went to prison for 11 years. Then a DNA test came back. He had never been in the same room as her. Jennifer Thompson had been wrong. And the terrifying part isn't that she lied. She didn't. Her memory had simply rewritten itself into something that felt completely real. And your brain works exactly the same way. We talk about memory like it's a recording. Like somewhere inside your head there's a library, and every experience you've ever had is sitting on a shelf, waiting to be pulled down and replayed exactly as it happened. That's not what memory is. That has never been what memory is. And the gap between what memory actually does and what we believe it does is one of the most consequential mistakes the human brain makes about itself. But here's what's fascinating. The problem isn't that your memory is weak, it's that your memory is trying to be helpful. And that instinct to help is exactly what keeps destroying the truth. Let's start with what actually happens when you remember something. Every time a memory is recalled, it doesn't play back like a file. It gets reconstructed. Your brain pulls fragments from different storage regions, the image from one place, the emotion from another, the specific words from somewhere else entirely, and assembles them in real time into something that feels seamless, feels complete, feels true. But during that reconstruction, the memory is physically vulnerable in a way most people never realize. It becomes what neuroscientists call labile, unstable, open to revision. Elizabeth Loftus has spent 50 years studying exactly this. She's a cognitive psychologist at the University of California, Irvine, and she's arguably done more to expose the unreliability of human memory than any scientist alive. In one of her earliest experiments in the 1970s, she showed participants footage of a car accident. Then she asked them one of two questions. Either, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? Or, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? One word different. That's all. The people who heard smashed estimated speeds nearly 10 miles per hour higher than the people who heard hit. And a week later, the smashed group was significantly more likely to report seeing broken glass in the footage. There was no broken glass. A single word, inserted after the fact, had edited their memory of something they had watched with their own eyes. Think about that for a second. They weren't guessing. They were remembering. They were certain. But that's only half the story. Because what Loftus discovered next is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. It's not just that memories can be distorted by outside suggestion. Entirely new memories, detailed, vivid, emotionally real, can be planted inside your head for events that never happened to you at all. In a series of studies now known as the Lost in the Mall experiments, Loftus gave participants a booklet containing 4 short stories about their childhood, all supplied by family members. 3 of the stories were real. One was fabricated, a detailed account of getting lost in a shopping mall at age 5, being frightened, and eventually being reunited with the family by an elderly stranger. None of it ever happened. By the end of the study, roughly 25% of participants not only accepted the false memory as real, they elaborated on it. They added details Loftus had never put in the story. They described the stranger's face. They remembered how scared they felt. They owned a memory of something that had never occurred, and they defended it with the same quiet certainty Jennifer Thompson had when she pointed at Ronald Cotton. Here's where it gets complicated. Because your brain isn't doing this to deceive you. It's doing this because of a process called reconsolidation, and understanding it changes how you see every memory you've ever trusted. When a memory is recalled, it doesn't just play and return to storage untouched. It gets destabilized at the molecular level. The proteins that hold the memory in place briefly dissolve. The memory becomes writable again. And when it gets stored back, it incorporates whatever was present in your environment during the recall. The emotion you were feeling, the conversation you just had, the assumption you brought into the room, all of it gets folded in. Then the memory resolidifies, slightly different than it was before, and it feels just as real as it ever did. More real, sometimes, because now it has fresh emotional weight attached to it. This means something almost no one fully accepts about their own past. The memories you have replayed the most are the ones that have changed the most. Your most vivid memories, the ones you'd stake your identity on, are the ones your brain has rewritten the most times. Every time you've told that story at a dinner table, every time you've lain awake replaying it, every time you've described it to a therapist or a friend, you have been editing it. Not consciously. Not deliberately. But chemically and structurally, in a process your brain runs automatically, every single time. The people most confident in their memories are statistically the least accurate. Confidence and accuracy, in human memory, are almost entirely unrelated. In study after study on eyewitness testimony, the witnesses who express the most certainty are no more likely to be correct than the ones who express doubt. They just sound more convincing, which is exactly why Jennifer Thompson was so persuasive on the stand. She wasn't performing certainty. She felt it completely. Her brain had built her a memory so solid she would have passed a lie detector test, and Ronald Cotton spent 11 years in prison because of it. This isn't a rare edge case. The Innocence Project, which uses DNA evidence to exonerate wrongfully convicted people, has reviewed over 375 wrongful convictions in the United States. Roughly 69% of them involved eyewitness misidentification. Not lying witnesses. Not corrupt witnesses, just human beings doing exactly what human brains do, remembering something that felt real and turned out not to be. Think about a disagreement you've had with someone close to you, a moment where you both remembered the same event completely differently. Both of you were certain. Both of you had the same conversation or the same argument or the same night, and somehow you came away with two different versions that couldn't both be true. The instinct is to assume one person is lying or misremembering. But what if you were both telling the truth as your brain had rewritten it? What if neither version is what actually happened, and the real event exists nowhere anymore, dissolved by years of reconsolidation into two separate fictions that both feel like facts? There's one more piece to this, and it might be the strangest part of all. In 2006, neuroscientist Karim Nader at McGill University demonstrated something that had seemed almost impossible. He showed that a fully consolidated long-term memory, not a fresh memory, not a recent one, but an old, deeply stored memory, could be permanently erased by interfering with the reconsolidation process at the moment of recall. In animal studies, a fear memory that had been stable for months could be wiped completely by blocking the protein synthesis that allows reconsolidation to occur. The memory didn't fade. It didn't weaken. It was gone. And the animal behaved as if the original event had never happened. The implications are still being worked through. Some researchers believe this could eventually lead to treatments for PTSD, disrupting traumatic memories at the moment of recall before they can be stored back. Others worry about what it means if memory, the thing we treat as the foundation of identity and experience, turns out to be this fragile, this editable, this dependent on a chemical process that runs every single time you think about your past. Because if every recall is a rewrite, then your memory isn't a record of your life. It's a living document. One that has been continuously edited by every version of you that has ever thought about it. The person you were at 20 altered the memories laid down at 10. The person you are now has been quietly rewriting the person you were at 20 for years. And the person you'll be in another decade will do the same thing to who you are right now. Jennifer Thompson eventually met Ronald Cotton. After his exoneration, she reached out to him. She needed him to understand that she hadn't lied, that she had believed completely in what she remembered. He told her he forgave her. They wrote a book together. They still give talks together about the fallibility of eyewitness memory. Two people whose lives were shaped by a memory that wasn't real, trying to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. She has said in interviews that she can no longer fully trust her own memory of her attacker's face, not because she's stopped remembering, but because she now knows what her memory did to her. And once you know that, you can't unknow it. Your memories feel like the most personal thing you own. The proof that your life happened. That the people you loved were real. That the moments that shaped you actually occurred. And they did occur. Something happened, but the version stored inside you has been revised so many times, by so many versions of you, that the original is buried somewhere beneath years of edits you never knew you were making. The past isn't behind you, fixed and finished. It's inside you, still being written.